Good to go? Good to go? All right, everyone ready? All right, good evening and welcome to the August 15th meeting of the City of West Sacramento Planning Commission. Out of respect for everyone here, please ensure that your cell phones are turned off or on silent. I would also remind everyone speaking this evening that the commission requests that your comments remain respectful and that all speakers refrain from personal attacks against each other or members of city staff. Furthermore, I would remind everyone in attendance that all comments and speech should only proceed after being acknowledged by the commission. Thank you. Commissioner Squires, will you please lead us in the pledge? Thank you very much. Beginning with item number 1, any presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the commission?
Not at this time.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, correspondence and staff communication from the Planning Commission Secretary.
Yes, Chair Delgado, thank you. You should have a couple of comment letters in front of you, as well as a memo from staff regarding item number 5 tonight. So this came up today, so we will be going over that memo for you when we get to the presentation on that item. That concludes staff communications at this time.
All right, thank you. And item number 3, disclosure of ex parte communications from any of the commissioners. None. All right. I would like to disclose that I did have a meeting with the mayor, and the topic of Yarborough did come up. We did discuss it, in addition to other things regarding the Planning Commission. I also spoke with a member of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. Again, he was asking general questions about it, and we did discuss the topic. So that is it for me. Sorry, I would also like to acknowledge that I received a text message on my personal phone number from a member of the public regarding Yarborough. I chose not to respond because I do not have a listed public phone number. So if you would like to reach me or set up a meeting, I do request that you contact city staff and they'll arrange the meeting for me. Thank you. Still my turn. All right, item number 4, public hearing regarding proposed amendments to Title 17 of the Municipal Code to facilitate tiny homes on wheels as legal dwellings.
Staff is, on this item, staff is requesting that
Okay, so do we have a motion to continue this to our next meeting on September 19th?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you very much. All in favor of postponing this discussion until September 19th, 2024?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you very much. Okay, and moving on to item number 5, continued public hearing regarding proposed Yarborough Phase 1 vesting tentative subdivision map number 5224 and development agreement amendments.
Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Daniel Berumen, Senior Planner and Project Manager for the Yarborough Project. I'm joined by city staff tonight, representing several departments who have assisted in bringing this item before the Planning Commission this evening. I did want to specifically thank Community Development Director Andrea Aus for providing the presentation on August 1st. I was ill that night, so I really thank her for stepping up and helping me out with that. All of you should have a copy of the Planning Commission desk memo highlighting a recent addition to the DA amendments relating to not-a-part lands and bonding for possible damages to properties as a result of the Yarborough construction activities. Tonight, I will be giving a brief overview to provide context on the project. Following that, I will be providing details on the project's very first vesting tentative subdivision map. Next, I will be describing the development agreement, or DA amendments, and why they are necessary at this time. I will then briefly explain the CEQA determination, and lastly, recommend actions for the Planning Commission this evening. Since this is a continued item from the August 1st Planning Commission meeting, I will be providing an abridged version of the presentation. So if anyone is interested in a more in-depth discussion on the Yarborough project, I would refer them to the August 1st agenda packet and the recording of that meeting. The link to the agenda packet is provided in attachment 2. The Yarborough Master Plan has been envisioned for nearly 20 years. It received approvals from the city over 16 years ago in June of 2008. What was approved at that time was a series of actions, including rezoning of parcels, general plan amendments, master design guidelines for the project, a certified environmental impact report, or EIR, and development agreement. All of this information is found on the city's webpage for the project. Yarborough itself encompasses approximately 713 acres in the southern section of the city, with an envisioned planned area that includes 3,004 residential units, a village core with commercial and mixed land uses, privately owned but publicly accessible golf course, open space, including a 56-acre lake park and canal system. Just a brief note on the golf course for some further clarity based on the last meeting. There are no plans to install a water well to irrigate the golf course at this time. The current plan is to utilize existing water from the main drain. And lastly, this is one of the 3 big projects in the Southport area, along with the Liberty specific plan and the River Park master plan. To the left, you can see the vicinity map. You can see the project area is located in the southern portion of the city. Jefferson Boulevard intersects the project area, going all the way down to Fisher Road and the South City limits. The phase map to the right depicts the total of the 4 phases in the project. But for purposes of tonight's map action, we're really focusing on the northeastern portion highlighted in yellow. But there are a total of 4 phases for this Yarborough project. Moving on to the phase 1 vesting tentative subdivision map. Phase 1 totals approximately 179 acres. It creates 548 small lots. Essentially, these are low to medium density residential lots. About 70 acres or 18 large lots that are dedicated uses that are proposed for the fire station, affordable rental housing, parks, detention basin, and stormwater. And I'll just point out where exactly the fire station relocated fire station number 42 will be. Some of the parcels, these 2 parcels for the residential affordable housing, some park space, and the detention basin for the project. Moving on to development agreement amendments. So a DA is a legally binding contract between property owners and the city. It usually sets and includes terms not otherwise required through existing regulations. DAs and their revisions require approval by ordinance at City Council. This DA, for example, was approved in 2008, and development in Southport has continued steadily since the project approval, including significant infrastructure projects like the Southport Levee Improvement Project and the Mike McGowan Bridge. As it stands now, this DA needs to be updated to reflect current conditions and to address current public infrastructure needs in the city. The strike-through sections of the DA reflect either outdated information, completed or constructed projects, and obligations met by the developer that are no longer applicable. Other amendments include new obligations for public infrastructure requested by the city to address infrastructure deficiencies that are beneficial to the project and its surrounding areas. Several notable amendments include the term and extension, Jefferson Boulevard improvements, removal of the Mike McGowan Bridge, and Bevan Road and Burroughs Avenue improvements. Additional DA amendments include funding for the South City Levee Trail, South River Road, Bike and Pedestrian Bridge, and funding for the Main Drain Canal Trail. Moving on to CEQA. So there was an environmental impact report certified in 2008 for this project. Potential environmental impacts that would result from implementation of the proposed project are summarized in the EIR. For new environmental review to be necessary, the city must have substantial evidence for new or more severe environmental impacts. This project remains substantially the same since approval in 2008. Since the certification of the Yarborough EIR, there have been several changes in the CEQA statute and CEQA guidelines. However, these changes in law do not necessarily trigger the need for supplemental environmental review under CEQA. In terms of recommended actions, for phase one, the Planning Commission has the authority for approval, but decisions are appealable to City Council, and this is effectuated through Resolution 24-2PC. When it comes to DA amendments, the City has authority to approve the City Council has authority to approve with the Planning Commission providing a recommendation, and this is effectuated through Resolution 24-3PC and Ordinance 24-11. There have been several public inquiries on emergency evacuation routes. So we have public safety personnel, Fire Marshal Brian Johnson, to speak a bit on that.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Brian Johnson, Fire Marshal, but for the sake of this conversation, I'll be wearing my emergency manager hat. I know there have been some inquiries coming in regarding the city's evacuation plan. We provided some comment on that, but for the sake of just kind of explain what the city has, we have a formal evacuation plan, which consists of many elements. Route plans, narrative plans for guidance of what we do. There are some public tools. Know Your Zone, if you guys haven't heard of it, you can look up Yolo County Know Your Zone. And we are currently in the process of amending that, which will also include some additional tools that'll be more helpful to it. But I know the concern would be of the evacuation of the public from the Yarborough community. The main routes in and out of town would still exist. Actually, within the DA, there's an element that addresses an amendment of that plan to include updates to the evacuation plan to incorporate all the different streets and ways in and out of Yarborough. With that, any questions to the city's efforts addressing evacuation?
The only comment I have, and thank you for being here this evening, is there any fold in on the traffic impact in conjunction with the emergency evacuation routes or whatnot that have been factored in? Because that was kind of a twofold, I think.
I would say as far as traffic, I'd have to default to traffic engineering before that. But, we're prepared to evacuate everyone in West Sacramento if we had to.
Perfect. I was just trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Gotcha.
If you
Sorry.
had that folded into the evacuation component.
Yeah, sorry, I don't.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. So in conclusion, we have the recommended action here this evening with the included language for the PC memo on the not apart lands that you have before you this evening. I did want to note that in terms of next steps, there is a proposed special meeting with the City Council on September 12th for the DA amendments. So it's something that may occur in the following weeks if this item is moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I think we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment, and then we'll bring it back to the commission to ask questions of staff and discuss amongst ourselves. So, do we have any public comment this evening?
Yes. Tom Morrow, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. were here a couple weeks ago, had a lot, but one of the things that I was the most concerned about, obviously, rest.
I'm sorry, would you please approach the microphone? Thank you.
Like that better?
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry. Anyway, the routes in and out were a little bit confusing, but then while I kind of went back and looked through some of I'm a land surveyor for trade. I'm actually a retired land surveyor. Business has been here since 1984. Anyway, been around here a long time, and I think like everybody else, like, holy cow, what happened in Jefferson Boulevard? When I first moved out here, there was a pheasant club, and that was it. I mean, you had a 2-lane road after that, and it's been crazy traffic, and like, holy cow, look at this. This is Watt Avenue all over again. But it works. It works so well, and it's worked as the city's grown, and Jefferson Boulevard's gotten widened. What I really liked about what the city has done and what all the developers have done, it's been almost seamless to me. The developments have happened. You think more stoplights are going to make a big mess, and they don't. It's still a really pleasant place to live. I love it. It's the coolest, just fun. And it always has a good vibe. And what Yarborough has planned, I think is great, because you're not going to get to Yarborough before Jefferson's widened. The fire department's already made plans to have a presence there. But most importantly, West Sacramento has this beautiful weather. We have the Delta breeze, getting a golf course. Everything in West Sacramento is going to get better. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Danny Langford.
Good evening. So I'm still a little disappointed that we didn't get the workshop, because it was obvious that most of you up there wanted it, and it was sad to see staff talk you out of it. Tonight, I would like to remind you that the resolution that I constantly talk about, 06-63, promised that the city would follow the award-winning Southport Framework Plan. The public has the right to be involved in the building design, and the city has an obligation to follow those design standards. Staff needs to do public workshops on the design process as we move forward. I still feel we need a new traffic report. Also, we have many concerns about the 5-story apartment buildings when the design plan says building will be no more than 2 stories, except in the town center where they can be 3. Building 5-story buildings that far south is nothing more than sprawl. An over 55 community on smaller lots is really needed here in West Sac. That will not only help bring more of the aging West Sac, so it's a little affordable single 1-story units with smaller yards for gardening. This type of affordable housing will remove a lot of commuter traffic, as most of the retirees don't work. Maybe include a little clubhouse would be nice for the seniors. The city needs to stick with the plan. No more red and black monstrosity buildings that do not fit the neighborhood, like what we all have seen on Jefferson. The urban core is not what West Sacramento needs, especially in Southport. Higher density was always promised to be centered in the Bridge and Washington districts in the city. We need some design that enhances the town center within this development. We need to follow the architectural design book that was put into place many years ago, so that we don't end up with those ugly buildings like what we see on Jefferson, which I still don't understand how that got approved. This developer is excited about his development. Let's help him create a development that would make us all proud. It takes a village. Let the village be the part of the planning. And yes, myself, my husband, and Pat Flint met with Mr. Stroud, and it is a beautiful development. But we all have concerns, and we need to do this right, because we only get one opportunity to do right. We're not against growth. We want smart growth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Flint. Sorry. At Flint, please.
Thank you. Commissioners, staff that's here this evening. David Tilley, I owe you a bit of an apology. I understand that you're not the one that makes the decisions, and I know who does, so I apologize to you. Anyway, I want to thank staff for answering the questions that we brought forward at the last public hearing. I still feel we needed the community workshop, and I'm going to work on that. And I'm going to speak tonight on our meeting with Mr. Stroud. He was very accommodating. I was very pleased to clear up things that had happened in the past. He clarified some questions for us that really helped, and we appreciate that. Overall, we like and approve of the Yarborough development as long as it follows the Southport Framework Plan, design guidelines, our resolutions -06-63, which he actually reminded us that that had come about because of this Yarborough project, and I had forgotten that. I think the 2016 general plan needs to come in play, not the 2035 general plan. I believe it's 2016. He helped us realize most of our major concerns lie with the city, at the city level, not the developer. We plan to continue to bring up these with the city: traffic, police, fire, road repair, and the need for affordable residential housing for seniors with smaller lots, not closed-in high-density apartment complexes. Seniors need air, they need a little yard, and they need to be on their own if they so choose to do that. We shared our concerns about the Washington Unified School District and the new development. 3,004 houses would require at least 2 elementary schools. 1 new school should be built during the first phase because most schools in Southport are already at max or near max capacity. We discussed the sustainability of the golf course. He expressed that it would be sustainable and that the city had no plans to become owners or managers in this court. You, the Planning Commission, have the authority to send your concerns or suggestions with the package to the City Council, and I encourage you to do that if you so choose to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike McGowan.
Start the clock till I get up there. I'm going to be fine, folks. It's just some hip surgery. I appreciate what I've been hearing, and actually it sounds like it has been very constructive, even the questions and the concerns, and that is heartening, because what I'm here tonight to talk about is the original aspiration that myself and the spirit of 4 other council members who aren't here today, the goal and the aspiration that we had for this kind of project. When we incorporated, we're about half the size as we are today, and we didn't have the best. West Sacramento was a wonderful place to live, a wonderful place to grow up, a wonderful place to raise your children, but it had kind of a challenging reputation. And we decided to get with it and start to build some quality projects. And you can look around and see what we've done, what you all have done, what subsequent councils have done. But this was a kind of project that was high on the list of that original council and subsequent councils, because it does 2 things. It creates a really high quality project for the benefit of the direct benefit for the community. For instance, the golf course itself, 18-hole. We used to have a 9-holer up in Lighthouse, and it was very popular, very well utilized. And to have like I would say, championship or professionally run 18-hole golf course back in West Sacramento, it also, besides being an amenity for the community, it's telling the rest of the region that we really know what we're doing. We've got our act together over here, and we can do really great things. Look at the ballpark, look at the Nugget facility there where they are. Look at the ballpark, and like I said, other major projects that we've done here in West Sacramento. And through all that, we've raised really the image and the reputation of West Sacramento significantly. Now, people are asking, gosh, what are you guys doing over there? What's in that water? You're really doing great things. You got a great community over there. And I didn't hear that growing up. But after we got rolling and started to have some accomplishments and some of these projects came online, then we started to hear the opposite. Wow, you guys are really doing a good job. Yes, yes. This project certainly wasn't in the works at the beginning, but as it came forward, Mr. Stroud and his associates, it fit perfectly with the dream that we had for high-quality projects, and not the least of which is, little things like, I know we have a golf course for the high school. Well, gosh, where do they go now? We got a place for them to play in the Parks and Recreation and the seniors. We actually have an ability to create some greater community amenities. So I'm talking for the four of us, or the five of us. I'm the only one left. But I feel very positive that the original council would have said, please, do what you got to do to work this out, but support this project because it's a very good one for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Amber Goddard.
Mike, nice to see you.
Hey, oh my God, Kimber, how you doing?
Well, quick. It's last time I was here, I was debating the same project with Mike McGowan. I've been here 40 years in West Sacramento. I'm a semi-retired trust attorney. I live on Burroughs. I have a minor in land use as it developed here and working in West Sacramento and many of the projects. In 2008, I worked with the staff then to try to help ameliorate some of the concerns about this project. I'm gonna give you the cynical view, because everybody loves a golf course. There's a lot of eye candy, there's a lot of beauty and puffery in the Channel 13, and there's telling us they're going to have a wonderful golf course. Oh, okay. I don't think so. I don't think there's ever going to be a golf course of 18 holes. But what if there wasn't? There'd be a lot of open space. Not so bad, as long as it doesn't turn into houses. Golf courses in the Sacramento area, of the 30, 10 are gone, and the rest are going quick. They're too expensive. They're a drain on city services. They take all the water. The cities can't really make money on them. They're just a lot of pain and suffering for cities, so they're divesting and building houses with them, and that would be some of the advice you'll see if you just do a quick 5-minute Google search on golf courses in California and Sacramento area. You'll see it's a dead duck. So I'm surprised there's no feasibility study. So that's okay. That aside, I just don't think it's going to happen, but that doesn't make it a bad project. There's a lot of good in the project. I support the project. Let me just get out front with that, because I don't sound like I do, because there's things I don't support. One of those is the Cox Castle letter by the developer. Of course, the developer's attorney is going to write a letter that supports the developer's view of the EIR as being adequate to forecast any impacts in 2008 that are going to occur now. I don't think so. I don't think that's possible. And as you look at the developer's attorney's letter, it sounds like this. Traffic, no significant impact. Huh? Schools, no significant impact. Huh? Police, no significant impact for all 3,000 homes, as evidenced by deleting, for no good reason, the developer's obligation to build a police station and equip it. Why on earth would we do that? Emergency evacuation issues, we just brushed right over that. No significant impact. What? Hold on a second. We don't have an I-5 bridge. Doesn't look like we're ever going to get one. We have in the works, 10 years out, $300 million later, the North Area Enterprise potential bridge. Until then, we're just going to have to live with it. What are we doing in the meantime? Water usage and quality, no significant impact. This is a 55-acre lake and canals. We're supporting a lot of lakes right now. I wish somebody could tell me where the water's coming from or where it will come from. The present level of city services adequately maintained, no significant impact. Exactly what did the city expect the developer's attorney to say? No significant impact. Well, I don't agree with that. I looked at their cases. I read the CEQA law, 15162 is clearly an issue here. Any EIR this old has issues, and it easily can be adjudicated. And the issue of whether there's significant impacts or not is a factual one that you're making the citizens try to explain that there are some, or you're going to do this. I think you should explain why there aren't any. That would be the correct burden of proof.
All right,
In any
thank
case,
you.
I support the project. I'd like to see some kind of public workshop. I think that's fair enough. I think 10,000 people have moved in here in the last 16 years that don't know much about it. If you sent out a letter to everybody in this community inviting them to one public workshop,
thank
2
you.
weeks or a month
We
out,
appreciate your comment.
it would cost $3,000. And
Thank you.
I think the
We-
developer
we-
could
we-
pay for it.
we
You're
do
welcome.
have your letter.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
letting me speak, and thanks for the work you're doing for free, almost, and without nothing but abuse. Thank you.
Jeff Henry.
Hi there, my name is Jeff Henry, former planning commissioner, and one of the authors of the Southport Framework Plan that took 7 years to master plan 7,000 acres in West Sacramento. I think we've done our due diligence. I think what you have is a plan that I've been waiting for a long time, a plan that evolved from a 6-lane road down to a 4-lane road, locking in maximum development, maximum capacity. This thing has been tested, it's been tried, it's been true. It's been held up time after time after time. I'm not a big fan of being subjective over paint colors on apartment complexes. That's nobody's business. Somebody liked it or they wouldn't have done it. So when it comes to colors and designs and stuff like that, that's up to a developer. If you don't like it, don't move in. But 7,000 acres and 7 years of scrutiny, and all I can tell Dave is it's about freaking time. It took us a long time to get here. It's not a leapfrog development. I think we took an award-winning plan and we evolved to slowly, thank you, Tom, to slowly bring the infrastructure forward, to slowly expand the roads, to slowly expand the intersections, and all of this is a long-term build-out and phased development, and I'm just really glad to finally see this thing come together. The fact that it's expanding into the Southport area with all the open space of the golf course has really solidified the fact that there's always a little possibility of having development in 3 of the villages instead of the 4 like we originally planned. And there was always a future council or future planning commission that could increase the densities after 4 lanes had been committed to. But with the open space on this development spreading over and occupying that land, that permanently blocks that ever from happening again. And it's absolute perfection. So I'm a huge supporter. That's all I got.
Thank you.
No more comments.
All right. At this time, I'd like to bring it back to the Planning Commission. If you have any questions for members of staff or any discussion that we'd like to have before. Anything else?
I want to thank David and Daniel for the list of the changes that between this agreement and the original agreement. I had emailed earlier this week and asked for a copy of the original Yarborough agreement because I had never seen it, and also because there was a lot of concerns that people had expressed that it was significantly different from what was originally put out there, and come to find out that actually it really isn't. As far as the actual development itself, nothing's really changed outside of the strikes and changes in language for things that have already taken place or things that are no longer valid. And I did come across a couple things in here that in the original agreement that I was very pleased to see that had come up from one public comment. And I see the gentleman here tonight that I believe this would still apply to this moving forward is which was listed on the miscellaneous category of the original agreement, where prevailing wages, the landowner shall pay prevailing wage and shall direct its contractors and other parties with which it has contractual relationships with respect to the project to pay prevailing wages only if the same is required by the prevailing wage law. That's actually written into the agreement. And I hope that that's still a part of the agreement, because I think that's probably one of the fairest things that we can do is is in terms of supporting the folks who will help be responsible for developing this and building this project. So instead of me assuming that there are, outside of the list of the amendments, I'm going to ask the question. I see in the original agreement that the development is limited to 3,004 houses, and I'm just curious, is that still the limit of where we are moving forward with this development, at this juncture?
Yep, that provision of the development agreement remains unchanged.
Okay. Let's see, I had one more. Of course, I'm not going to be able to find it. And then obviously, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the city, either the city's requirement or the state's requirement in terms of affordable housing has changed since from 2008 to today. Is that correct?
It has changed somewhat in our own ordinance, Chapter 1540, the municipal code, has changed somewhat since that time. So there is updated provisions and a term sheet for how affordable housing would be provided in this project.
And but then that's also incorporated into the 3,004, correct?
That's part of it. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
So I guess I just wanted to start and apologize for missing the last meeting. I did watch the whole thing, and I've reviewed the materials. So I appreciate you all being here and the public being here for that meeting too. I do have some questions about the golf course, and I think it's probably for the developer. And can I direct questions to the developer?
Okay. You may, if that's what you desire, it's appropriate. Go ahead.
I'll try. Okay. Just for the golf course, did you do any vetting for that of just the viability of having a golf course out there? And
we've interviewed probably a half a dozen different companies that manage, that actually own, operate, and manage golf courses, and their consistent response to us is that the golf course is very likely and going to make a profit of operations. Honestly, they've told us that the cost of building the golf course will be ours. But once the golf course is built, it will operate at a profit. And which is obviously pretty necessary. So, but they're I'm not a golf course expert, other than the fact that we have done a lot of research on this. I guess the word sustainability might be a good way to address it. And fortunately or unfortunately, with the COVID issue that came up several years ago, the golf business has increased and improved quite a bit. A lot of articles now that come out, and I've seen articles in the past about golf courses closing. That's correct. But I am also seeing now articles about golf courses being considered for construction, companies that specialize in managing and owning golf courses wanting to buy more of them. I guess the bottom line is we feel very comfortable that by building this course, it will be sustainable and it will stay there. As you know, in the development agreement, there was a paragraph that addressed the option agreement that the city might have or would have in order to buy the golf course. That was really, at the time, the city council at that time wanted the ability to step in if something happened to this golf course like happened to the Lighthouse project. And if they needed to step in to buy the course, and they would buy it basically not at what it costs to build the golf course, but basically what the operation would generate in terms of cash flow and how the value of the golf course would be established that way. So We don't foresee that happening. And actually, in a lot of conversation with your city staff, they have no plans, nor have they ever indicated to us that they wanted to buy the golf course. But we're obligated in the development agreement to have that option agreement in there because that's what it says. I mean, that was a part of it years ago, and the council at that point in time wanted that to be a part of it. Have I answered your question?
I think so. So you've spoken to people who are experts in this, and
We've talked with many. We've interviewed. We've talked to golf course designers. Yes, we have.
And so would you guys build it first and then sell it off, or how does that work? Is it, or you get the golf course on board?
The golf course will be owned by a private company. It'll be either owned by us, or it'll be owned by a company that comes in to buy it, or a company that comes in to buy the project and to operate and run the golf course.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions that I could answer in regards?
I have a follow-up question on this, but it might be for city staff on. So are they obligated to complete the golf course?
Yeah, the development agreement spells out the timing of the golf course. They are obligated to commence construction of the golf course, with the first phase, and then it needs to be in what's known as the grow-in phase by the time they get 1,200 units. Those are the provisions in the DA.
I have a few more questions, but I didn't want to.
Please.
Okay.
Let's do this right.
Okay. Okay. So related to CEQA, can you explain how it works when the developer's attorney provide the letter to staff? How do you review it? We make an independent review of that and assess that?
Yeah, certainly. That's typical. We receive things from legal counsel representing applicants all the time. So we will certainly take that in under consideration, and we'll seek our own input on that from our own city attorney's office, which happened in this particular case as well, and that there is concurrence with what was in that Castle letter.
Thank you. Do we have someone from, is Jason McCoy here? Okay.
We don't have him here tonight. We do have our traffic engineer, Jimmy Fong, here. He is new with us at the city, but he is here tonight, and I will certainly try to fill in any blanks that I can if necessary.
Yeah, and you may just be able to answer them too. So just with traffic and in and out of Southport, so the Enterprise Bridge is the primary project online right now, is that?
Yeah, we're in what's known as the PAED phase, which is preliminary engineering and environmental documentation. So we are formally involved in that now. It's early on in that process, but it is formal. A contract's been approved, consultants are on board, and so that work is engaged. I expect that to be about a 3-year process because this is a big project involving many interested parties, not the least of which is the Coast Guard, since we are talking about something spanning a navigable waterway. So we just learned earlier today that Coast Guard will be the lead agency on behalf of the city for that project. So that's very much in the works. It will still be a while before it's here, but the formal work about it has commenced.
Okay, and how long is that process? Just saying we get to building it out.
The PAD phase we expect to be 3 years. So we're only maybe a few months into that at this point. The bridge itself is probably more in the 8 to 8 year range, maybe 10, depends, because this will be almost largely funded through federal and state sources. So we will need to get appropriations, grants, things of that nature to be able to make it, because this is a approximately $200 million project that we could not possibly fund just here at the local level.
And how does that 10-year phase compare to building out the Yarborough project?
Well, Yarborough at 3,000 units, and assuming that that's how it ultimately plays out, in the fiscal analysis, we're still assuming on an average of 150 units a year. So even if that holds true, that's still 20 years to build houses, and there'll still be some period of time before any houses start sprouting up out of the ground where you would see grading and a lot of the backbone infrastructure going in. And I recall from the EIR that the amount of grading needs to be done, that would need to be spread over 2 years from an air quality standpoint. So we're still a couple of years at least away from seeing any houses coming out of the ground. And there'll be a very lengthy design phase of the infrastructure until that could start happening. So, within that time period, there certainly would be some Yarborough units on the ground. It may not even be the entirety of the first phase by then. It will all depend on market forces and how long the infrastructure takes to construct to support those homes.
Thank you. So in theory, we could have the Enterprise Bridge in place before even half of it's done.
If these timeframes hold, yeah, it is certainly possible that could be there before the project is maybe even a third.
Okay. And then just one last question on the open space guidelines. Are those going to go to the Parks Commission or for public review?
Well, that was one of the provisions in the development agreement that they needed to have those guidelines. I believe, was it before final map? So those are still pending because those would need to be completed before final map. And final map is, would still be some time away. Could be as much as a year away, depending on the pace. So there will be ample time for those design guidelines to be considered through the right channels.
Okay, and does that come back to us for approval, or is that?
No.
I guess how could
Daniel,
the
you
public
wanna
provide
get in
input
here?
on that?
We have to see with that provision of development agreement and see how they are meant to be ultimately adjudicated.
Is that in Exhibit E?
Yes.
Yeah, the development agreement right now only references to submit them to the city, so that could allow for some maneuvering room in terms of how those are ultimately reviewed. And the proposal is also to have those by the first final map of phase 2. So that would be, that's reference to the golf course guidelines. My mistake. The open space guidelines need to be done before you get to the first small lot map. So that is small lot final map. Got to make sure this is clear. So that is that's still probably a year away in terms of when that would have to be done by. So we'll have an opportunity to be able to review those and share them with if it needs to be the Parks Commission, it's certainly something we can entertain.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your comments, Commission, for your questions, and the clarification that's been provided. Are there any additional comments or questions from the Commission? All right, at this time, I think I would ask for a motion one way or another.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make the motion to approve staff's recommendation as outlined under item 5 of today's agenda.
I'll second.
And would the maker of that motion be open to including the additional development agreement amendments referenced in the memo that's before you tonight?
Yes, Mr. Tilley, thank you for that clarification.
Thank you.
I would also like to make sure, yeah, I already seconded it. But I would also like, it's part of that second, I will also be sure that the concerns that the commission has expressed in this meeting and previous meetings be included with that as it moves forward to the city council, in particular what it relates to in terms of services for police and fire. I think because those are things that is not necessarily the concern of the developer, but rather, again, falls into the lap of the city to make sure those things are in place. The developers donating the land to the city, but now the city has to find the way to be able to build that station. And I hope that the city council then would also factor in finding ways to be able to provide additional fire services and police services for that area. Just so happened the other day, I was driving out on my way out as I saw engine 42 driving down north up Jefferson, heading to a call over in the Linden area. And as I saw that, I'm like, wow, how is that one station going to be able to serve not only Yarborough, Bridgeway, and the other developments in that area? I think it actually might require the city to do something else in terms of providing an additional station or an additional satellite station and an additional satellite station for police. So as long as those concerns are forwarded and included with the approval, I will second the amendment.
Okay. I'm just going to direct, do we have counsel here this evening?
Yes, City Attorney Jeff Mitchell is here tonight.
Hi. I just want to make sure that the additional comments by Commissioner Jackson can proceed as a second to Commissioner Olivares' motion.
Yes, I understood the second to be to second the motion. The additional comments, I believe I'll defer to David and Daniel, but all the comments from the Planning Commission as well as all the public comments that have been made will be forwarded to the council.
Okay. On that note, I would like to take a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Squires,
Aye.
Commissioner Sablon,
Aye.
Commissioner Olivares,
Aye.
Commissioner Jackson,
Aye.
Commissioner Linker,
Aye.
Commissioner Wong,
Aye.
Chair Delgado.
Aye. All right.
Any interested party may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission in this matter to the City Council by filing a written appeal with the city clerk within 10 days of tonight's action, and that appeal must be accompanied by the appropriate filing fee.
All right. Moving on to our regular agenda, I see we have none, which takes us to part 2. Any commissioner communications? No? All right. I'd just like to thank everyone who's come out to the past couple meetings. We appreciate your comments. And I thank you, city staff and the developer, for answering questions and addressing concerns that both members of the public and members of the commission had. So thank you very much. And with that, we'll adjourn.